In 2009, the small, unknown studio at the time, Rocksteady, released Batman Arkham Asylum. It literally changed everything. Rocksteady made a tectonic shift in the games industry, and they followed up on that merely 2 years later with Batman Arkham City, which for many people is considered one of the greatest games of all time. Flash forward 4 more years, and then all the way in 2015, we have Batman Arkham Knight, which was at the time considered the finale for the Arkham franchise. That was until 2020, when Rocksteady re-emerged from their slumber and were ready to unveil their next project at DC Fandom, Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League. And now, almost 4 years later, it's finally here. Does it live up to the hype? Did Rocksteady deliver on the same level of quality that they did with their near untouchable Arkham trilogy? Have we seen yet another tectonic shift in gaming? The answers to those questions, in that order, is no. In some aspects, yes. And yes, but in a bad way. You see, I was excited for this game. I said many times that as long as it has Rocksteady's logo, I'll be there day one to see what they have in store. That never meant I was gonna go in loving it already. All it meant is that I would give the game a chance no matter what. And after over 60 hours of playtime, completing the story, mastering the gameplay, and putting a considerable amount of time into the endgame, I can say that unfortunately, I was let down by this game. I have quite a few negatives to go over, but first I need to talk about some stuff that I do like. For starters, please, I beg of you, do not let anyone convince you that this game has bad visuals or graphics. The facial animations on these characters, the actual character designs, the textures, the lighting, the gorgeous open world with its day and night cycle and dynamic weather. You would be lying to yourself by saying that this game, from a strictly visual standpoint, looks bad. Rocksteady have absolutely delivered in that regard, and the same way that we look back fondly on Arkham Knight for the same reason, we will look back on some of the cutscenes here in this game and admire the pure wizardry at play. And as I just mentioned, the world of tomorrow, Metropolis, is beautiful in Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League. As you traverse through the open world, you'll see how much care went into making this feel so unique compared to Gotham. Gotham is grimy, it's got those dark corners, it's gross. In comparison though, Metropolis is vibrant with that signature retro futuristic style, alongside some familiar landmarks that if you're a fan of the lore, if you're a fan of this world, you will definitely recognize that reference the wider DC universe. And overall, some wonderfully realized architecture. Sadly, once you hit the ground, you lose all the magic. The streets are empty, and honestly, they just leave a lot to be desired. In Arkham Knight, the Batmobile allowed you to rip through the streets of Gotham with obstacles constantly in your way to destroy or carjackers to stop. It made that also rather empty open world feel at least like there was something always happening. And then after you eject out of the Batmobile, you can soar over the city and admire it from up top. The problem here in Suicide Squad is that you pretty much never want to be on the ground. There isn't that push and pull. You don't have the Batmobile that'll allow you to rip through the streets. And so because of that, the ground level kind of feels like an afterthought, coupled with the fact that, narratively speaking, it's incredibly bleak. You're informed very early on in the game that 99% of the population is either dead or transformed into one of Brainiac's minions. And it doesn't do much to offer you even a little bit of hope for what's left of mankind after Brainiac's invasion. Nevertheless, another aspect of this game that I cannot overlook, and that you're just gonna have to sit and listen to me praise for a second, is the gameplay. Listen, outside of traversal, there isn't much that makes each member of the squad feel different from one another. I agree with the point that many people have made in regards to that. But with that said, oh my goodness, the gunplay is unbelievably fun on the sticks, and it kept me coming back for that full 60 hours. I also really love most of the characters' traversal in the game. Deadshot plays really well from range and is this death from above type character. He relies on staying airborne for as long as possible while you rain down fire. The jetpack flows so well in general traversal too, while you just want to free roam around the map. And I've already sung my praises about playing as Captain Boomerang, how much I enjoy the fact that it's basically like I'm playing the Flash in a game, which is awesome. And at least with that character, I'm hitting the ground running most of the time, so that keeps me at street level, but that's kind of where I noticed how dead the city is at most times. King Shark, I think I started to like a little less from what I had initially played played from the alpha, I just noticed that I have the most fun gameplay when I'm bouncing around in the air and constantly trying to stay off the ground because that's what the game wants you to do. And while King Shark has the in-air pounce and everything, for the most part, you're not really airborne very long, and you'll find that trying to shoot at choppers or any enemies that are above you becomes very difficult. And while I was specifically told to give Harley some time to get used to, it just never worked for me, unfortunately. She still felt too floaty a majority of the time that I played as her character. I honestly think that a large reason as to why people say that the characters all feel the same goes beyond the fact that they all just shoot guns. For me, it's from the severe lack of enemy variety. The game presents you with enemies that seem to do different things, and some of them do, but you'll always feel like you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. Granted, some of it works, okay? Shooting enemies in the legs and then chaining together your melee for a shield harvest feels pretty satisfying. I like the impact of the hit. Counter shots always feel nice to land, especially against those frickin' snipers. It does weirdly have the DNA of the Arkham games in its counter system. At the end of the day though, cycling through these gameplay elements on loop doesn't hit as hard as it does when you're roaming through the grimy streets of Gotham, crashing through windows and eliminating a group of thugs as Batman. The RPG elements of this game are also interesting. There's surprisingly quite a bit of build crafting and weapon variety. You'll notice a decent amount to sink your teeth into here if you're a fan of looter shooters. And of course, after you beat the main campaign, you're presented with what the game wants you to do for months on end, which should then lead you into the new content drops, as this is a live service game. The end game takes you to Earth 2, where you can choose from a series of missions that are literally the exact same missions you have done several times before in the main campaign. Granted, because I love the gunplay so much, I was engaged just enough to grind through to mastery level 25 at Finite Crisis rank 60 plus with weapons and gear all the way through to tier 3 of Bane's Armory set. But I don't know how invested I will be to come back to each and every update had it not been my job to be covering this game and keep you guys informed on what's going on with it. The mission structure is not very good, and with samey enemies, it just doesn't sound like components that a live service needs for people to dedicate a majority of their time to. And I guess that's it. Nothing else to talk about here, so thanks for watching the review. Oh yeah, okay. Let's talk about the story. As you all know, this game takes place in the ArkhamVerse. It's specifically set 5 years after the events of Batman Arkham Knight. It's explained in the Batman Museum that not long after the events of Arkham Knight, Superman reveals himself to Batman and wanted him to join the super team. Of course, all this in hopes to protect the people from world-ending events. A lot of people think that this is out of character or that it ruins the ending of Arkham Knight. I kind of disagree. At the end of Arkham Knight, Bruce wanted to become a new myth. He wanted to become a new Batman. And of course, with his identity having been revealed to the world, he wanted to fake his death to try and protect his loved ones. But I'd think a literal god and then a team of other gods would be enough for you to be like, you know what? I think my loved ones are okay. So that really isn't my issue with the story. My issue starts with the fact that their first major threat comes along and brainwashes the entire team except for Wonder Woman. The Justice League, the gods of DC Comics, get washed in their first big fight. And even then, that's only scratching the surface when it comes to my issues with the story in Suicide Squad. With that said though, in order to fully articulate how I feel about this aspect of the game, I need to talk spoilers. So if you haven't beaten the game, or at least if you plan on watching my Let's Play, all the episodes are out right now, you might want to skip ahead. All right, you sticking around? Yeah, they live up to the title of the game. I get it. It's called Kill the Justice League. But holy smokes, was it called Kill the Justice League in the most anticlimactic way, or in a way that will honestly leave a pit in your stomach? The Flash gets shot enough to deplete his health bar, then falls over and dies. Green Lantern gets shot enough to deplete his health bar, then falls over and gets shot in the head. Wonder Woman has the coolest freaking moment in the entire game, I will say, okay? And the Suicide Squad just kind of sit there and spectate as she gets heat visioned to death. This was probably the best out of all the Justice League deaths, and again, one of my favorite moments in the entire game. The whole fight between Wonder Woman and Superman is epic. It's grandiose, it's a spectacle, and to be honest, that's how it should have been for every single League member. If we were truly committing, if we were going all in, if we were living up to the title of this game's name, then not a single one of them, not the Flash, not Green Lantern, not Wonder Woman, Batman, or Superman should have ever had a death in this game that involved you shooting them enough to the point where they just slump over and die. And yeah, after capturing and defeating Batman from what was a pretty cool, scary encounter where he uses the fear toxin against you and you fight a giant demon bat, we take him to LexCorp, and instead of one of the strongest minds in the DC universe experimenting on him enough to try and remove Brainiac's mind control, we just drag him out on a park bench and shoot him in the head. I was gobsmacked. I can't believe that this is the direction that Rocksteady wanted to go in. The moment is immediately followed up by Superman's arrival, where instead of eviscerating you in the blink of an eye like he absolutely could have in that very moment, he flies off and his boss battle begins, where you shoot him a whole bunch with gold kryptonite until he slumps over and dies just like that. I'm not saying I went into this game thinking that nobody on the team was going to die, okay? You know, there are other people who have been the Flash. We could get Wally West to come back in and be the Flash after Barry dies in this game. There are tons of other Green Lanterns, but I really did not expect that we would kill every single one of them, especially not Arkham Batman. I'm not gonna sit here though and say that Kevin Conroy was wasted, nor am I gonna use his passing as a means to direct hatred at Rocksteady, as if they knew 7 years ago when they started development on this game that he was going to pass away. That's stupid and disgusting, and you're a loser if you do that, by the way. Kevin signed up for this role knowing full well what was going to happen, and you can tell in his performance that he was having a lot of fun with it. And up until that moment on the park bench, I was enjoying Batman's role in this game, and I was looking forward to seeing more of him. I mean, there are literal moments where he's stalking you, watching over you on the rooftops in Metropolis. It's amazing. But still, it just doesn't sit right with me that if he was going to have to die in this game, they decided to do it in a way that really lacked any soul. There was no "you need to fight this" trope, no guilt, no epic death. He just gets shot. And that's it. And you know, even if by this point you liked what was happening, somehow, after defeating Superman, Brainiac finally reveals himself to you. And after going through some busy work, you head to Earth 2 to fight one of 13 Brainiacs that exist. Then as you get to Earth 2, you do a bunch of busy work again before you can actually get into the Brainiac boss fight. All this anticipation. We killed the Justice League to get here. What's in store for us with this fight? What mechanics will be introduced here to face off against the mighty Brainiac? Wait, what? He's turning himself into Flash? Oh, okay, cool. He's probably gonna shift into the other League members throughout the fight before he unleashes his raw power. Wait. What? You're telling me it's just the Flash boss fight again? And then we just beat him? The Suicide Squad beat Brainiac when the Justice League couldn't? I'm sorry. This game starts off pretty freaking strong. The opening is laugh out loud hilarious. The Hall of Justice is so cool. The battle between Green Lantern and the Flash, the whole Batman museum segment, my hopes were really starting to build. But at a certain point, this game really goes off the rails. After 7 years in development and almost 9 years since Batman Arkham Knight, we were left with a story that lasted less than 10 hours to beat. I don't even think I have the energy to get into the store and the prices for some of the cosmetics, or the currently always online aspect of the game and how the servers weren't working on day one, or my co-op experiences and how they've been rather unstable on the server side. It's just... I do think Rocksteady is a AAA studio. I do believe that they are still capable of making games of the same caliber of the Batman Arkham franchise. I know for a fact that there are incredibly talented people that work there and have worked there previously. And I do know that, at the very least, the people working on this game were very passionate about it. I don't know what it's like behind the scenes, okay? But I've seen clips and have talked to enough people in the industry to know that making games is a freaking Herculean effort. None of this stuff just happens at the snap of a finger. Nobody just pushes a big red button to make the game. I mean, just take a stroll through the credits. Look how long they are. See how many names, how many people it took for this game to even come out. It's insane. So I'm not here to bash on the developers, and I'm not here to advocate that you should either. I think that's ridiculous. But I certainly am here to tell you that Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is sadly not a game that I will look back on fondly. I will, of course, still be be following the updates and covering the game's post-launch plans, considering that's what I do here on this channel. I enjoy the gameplay quite a bit, so it's honestly gonna keep my interest specifically and only for that reason. But even then, there is still so much work to do for this to be able to even remotely compete with some of the leaders of the live service game genre. I don't know how much is left in Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League's tank, but I will be following closely on what Rocksteady will do to support it in the months to come. And I certainly hope that in the future, we can see Rocksteady return to the glory days, return to a single-player, story-driven experience. Give us that Superman game. Give us a Green Lantern game. Some people have even suggested a Green Arrow game could work so well considering what they did for Batman. Heck, maybe even do another Batman Arkham game. We can do something like the Battle for the Cowl if we wanted to. But to wrap it all up, because of my polarizing thoughts on gameplay and narrative, and the fact that this game is not even fully done telling its narrative, I will not be scoring Suicide Squad. Instead, I will say that if you are on the fence, if you're not sure whether or not to pick this game up, I personally recommend that you wait. Wait for them to add some quality of life updates, some new characters, some actual mission variety, and maybe even wait for a sale that makes you more comfortable in purchasing this game, or hold off entirely if the reviews, like mine and several others, have convinced you that this may not be a game that you want to purchase. And there you have it. That is my review for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. It bums me out to even be negative on this channel. I usually like to be happy. I usually like to be relatively positive, but the Arkham franchise, it means too much to me. My standards were very, very high. My expectations were astronomically high. And while there are some things that maybe I can let slip by, I overall just cannot settle. I just expected more. I was hoping for more, and it didn't meet my expectations, unfortunately. But hey, let me know what you guys think. At the end of the day, this is just my opinion. All this stuff is subjective, and you're allowed to feel differently. So why don't you just sound off with your thoughts in the comments section below. And again, please try to be respectful. Not liking a game, hating a game even, doesn't mean that you need to be childish and go attack developers. No matter how much I might dislike something, that is never the normal reaction. Provide your feedback, provide your criticism, try to make it constructive, so then we can strive for better in the future. Yelling and screaming, saying this is trash, saying I hate this, this sucks, I hate you Rocksteady, how dare you, it's not going to accomplish anything. And with that said, I've been Caboose. I'll see you guys later.